I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2024 season was a really good example of it's a good season, but so what? Hey, you win games, win the division, a bad division at that. You make the playoffs, but you lose in the first round. So what? It's kind of what it is, right? They went 10-7 last year. They won the NFC South again. You know, for a division that used to be notable for the fact it would have a different winner every year, the Bucs have kind of been the NFC South juggernaut the past 4 years, winning the division title in each of the last 4 seasons. But you know, are you playing to win division titles, or are you playing to try and get back to and win Super Bowls? That's the fundamental thing. But it was still a solid season for the Buccaneers, my cynicism about it aside. You had an elite offense being led by Baker Mayfield, who certainly has enjoyed a career resurgence in Tampa the past couple of years, and an average defense, which should be concerning, especially since your head coach is Todd Bowles, a guy with a defensive background, former defensive coordinator. You would think the defense should be performing better under him, but it doesn't. And it didn't, certainly in the wild card round against the Commanders when they needed to make stops. They weren't able to do so, and they got sent home packing early. So yeah, like I said, for the Bucs, it's one of these things where good season, yes, but does it matter? Like, what are you doing here? Are you ever gonna get over the hump? I don't know, based off of their current configuration, that they have the roster, the team, the coaching, frankly, to be able to get over the hump, which makes me start to wonder if Todd Bowles' seat could get hot after the 2025 season, or if it's already a little bit warm. And when you look at the Bucs, you know, this isn't a team that had a ton of salary cap space where they were going to be able to both lock up existing members of their roster plus go out there and spend hog wild in free agency. Their biggest acquisition or signing from outside of the team was Hassan Reddick, bringing him in on a one-year deal, trying to improve their pass rush. They re-signed a number of their guys. That was clearly the priority here. They wanted to keep some of their core together. They gave Chris Godwin the money. Luke Goedeke and Ben Bredesen on their offensive line got paid. Zion McCollum in their secondary got paid. And then Levante David got another one-year deal. Thankfully, it's a shame to me that Levante David, I'll always talk about it, like how good of a player he is and how criminally underrated he's been, in part because he happened to play at a time where he's an outside linebacker in a more traditional role that doesn't rush the passer a ton. And the people that vote for all pro awards and Pro Bowls and so forth, they focus much more with their bias towards sacks from outside linebackers, and it's really stupid. Oh, whoopee, you got 10 sacks. That makes you a Pro Bowler, even though a lot of the rest of the time you're not creating any other havoc or causing any damage, and you certainly are a liability against the run. Meanwhile, Levante David could fucking do it all. Just saying. Although he wasn't quite so great in coverage this past season, but forgive the man. He's in his mid-fucking-30s now, I'm just saying. Anyways, enough of my Levante David should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame rant. I won't even bother us with the Mike Evans one, because we know it's not going to be a matter of if he ends up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It ends up being a conversation of how long will it take Mike Evans once he's eligible. One of the things, though, with this Bucs offense, the season being over, is, with the performance of Baker Mayfield in that offensive unit, it means their offensive coordinator for the second straight year is going to be a hot commodity in the head coaching cycle. Dave Canellis was the year before, and Liam Cohen was this time. Duval. So now they're on their third offensive coordinator in 3 seasons, promoting Josh Grizzard to that role. We'll see how that all plays out. And it still reminds me, feels like it was forever ago, but it really wasn't. It was only a few months ago when you had the whole saga between Liam Cohen and the Buccaneers of, hey, he was about to come back for another year until he wasn't, until he got a head coaching job. What a mess that was, right? Anyways, as you look to the NFL draft, it was, I think, a bit of a surprise, especially with them re-signing Chris Godwin and still having Mike Evans in the fold and having just spent a third-round pick on Jalen McMillan, that this team would invest a first-round pick on Emeka Ibuka. I was surprised, too. I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you investing that many resources into the receiver position? Now, if you want to say, hey, we're trying to play the long-term game here, we don't think Mike Evans is going to play forever, we're not sure what we got out of Jalen McMillan, good call, by the way, then maybe it's not so bad, but it feels kind of odd. Like, was it really that important for you? And if you're saying that in part you took him because you're worried about Chris Godwin's health, then why did you give Chris Godwin the bag? I'm just saying. Um, but they spent their next couple of picks addressing the secondary, Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. Whenever Benjamin Morrison's actually healthy and can play, and Jacob Parrish, I would expect both can contribute to the secondary as rookies and certainly be welcome additions to that secondary unit. But, as I talked about here with Chris Godwin, big surprise. He's out probably at least week one and maybe a couple of games after that. Jalen McMillan's got a neck injury. He's going to be out for a good while, if not the whole season. Their stud left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, is going to be out for up to a month because his knee injury apparently didn't heal very well. Benjamin Morrison's out for the first week. So not a bang-up start to the season from a durability and health standpoint for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As you look at this roster now with all the offseason movement, how are they doing? How are they looking? Their biggest strengths, I start with Baker Mayfield, right? Like, what a career resurgence he's had the past couple of seasons in Tampa Bay. A really good example of it may not go according to plan fully in one spot. That doesn't mean that you have to give up. You get in there and you fucking work your tail off and you keep honing your craft. And if you get another opportunity, by God, you better go make the most of it. And that's exactly what he's done. That defensive line I really like. Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, and Hall. Like, that's a pretty good three-man front. It really, really is. They can defend the run at least adequately well. They really get after the opposing passers well for a three-man front. So that's certainly a strength of the team. And when you look at Bucky Irving last year and Sean Tucker, like that 1-2 combination at running back, especially Irving, what a godsend he was for that offense, their fourth-round pick last year. This is a team that has more balance now and they can run the ball more effectively, which really took their offense to another level in 2024. And I presume will be a strength of this team again this upcoming season. But still plenty of question marks. I look at the interior of that offensive line. Then I look at the edge rushers and I say, okay, like your front three is pretty good, but in terms of your edge rushers, like, you're lacking there, right? And they are. And then I look at their secondary. I know they drafted Morrison and Parrish and all of this shit, but at the end of the day, like, this is still a secondary that got torched at times last year, and I don't see that being a whole hell of a lot different for them. Now, as I look at the schedule for the Bucs, I look at the first 2 weeks and I say they got 2 road games to kick it off at Atlanta and at Houston. If Tampa Bay is not careful, they'll fuck around and put themselves in an 0-2 hole, which isn't impossible to climb out of, but certainly can be a challenge. And it's going to be critical for them at a minimum to go 1-1 in those first 2 games. You'd really like to win the Atlanta one if you had your druthers and had your choice, just from a tiebreaker standpoint, what it means for the division race. But that's a critical stretch right there, because if they go 0-2, that's not a good place to be. And then you look at the next few weeks on the schedule. They go Philadelphia in week 4, at Seattle week 5, San Francisco at home in week 6, and Detroit on the road in week 7. I think a lot of people are projecting the San Francisco 49ers will be improved this year. The Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. The Lions won 15 games last year. The Seahawks were close to making the playoffs and winning the NFC West. That's a critical 4-game stretch there for the Buccaneers. So the point I'm getting at is the schedule at the beginning isn't the easiest. You've got some injuries to some key players. It is certainly possible, if not likely, that the Buccaneers come out of the gates kind of scuffling their feet a little bit. As you go a little later in the season, I think another key stretch where they have to hope they're healthy and they've got to do some damage, but might be hard to do. It's week 11, they go to Buffalo, then back the next week to Los Angeles, take on the Rams, and then host the Cardinals in week 13. Those are teams, you got to find a way in that stretch of schedule to go 2-1 to have any real shot. I think the Bucs are still a solid team. I want to be clear here. And if Baker Mayfield continues to play like he has the past couple of seasons, then they've clearly got the best quarterback in this division, which gives them a huge advantage, which means they certainly can contend here. But I just feel like they've got a number of holes on that defense, some durability concerns. I worry about, like, you can only be at this point for so long before you either have to move up or you kind of cycle down. And I wonder if we're getting to the beginning of a cycle down. So even though they've won the division the past 4 seasons, it feels like we're tempting fate with history to pick them for a 5th straight time. I'm not going to. I think they win like 8 games, maybe 9, but I think they do finish second behind the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South.